Okay, so we're just gonna do a quick grounding in. If everyone wants to get comfortable, just sitting with the spine as straight as possible. And then I invite you to gently close your eyes. If you can, place your palms facing up on your legs or maybe on the chair or the desk, whatever feels comfortable, but palms facing up. And just take a deep breath in, feeling it rise all the way from the belly up through the chest and letting it out. Once again, breathing in, up through the belly, and letting it drop out and back down. Once more, breathing in and breathing out. We have a beautiful group of people that have come together here with this incredible vision that I believe is going to shake things up in the world. So just taking a couple seconds to be grateful for each other. Each and every one of us that has shown up here today has taken time out of their individual lives for the greater vision of Seeds, and that in its own is a huge, huge, huge mark in this movement. So thank you all, each and every one of you. Just feel that in your heart, because I know that we're so often grounded in the real world and our logic and our mind as ideas are spreading, but bringing it into the heart and just feeling that, connecting to that, that will really empower the gratitude that we have for this movement, and I believe set us apart and forward our momentum. So just really feel that gratitude. Thank you, thank yourself for being here, and thank each and every one of you for showing up today. And now I'm gonna give this back to Reiki. You can open your eyes, kind of shake your body out. I know some of you are just waking up, some of you, it's nighttime like us, just shake the head back and forth. But now that we're all connected in this wonderful call, we will let Reiki take back over. Thank you, guys. I'll try to get my computer set up.
All right. I love that.
Yeah.
So some of you might have noticed as you've been coming forward talking about role development that I've been inactive the last couple of days, and just want to share with you, I've taken some time to really make sure I'm being grounded so I'm able to hold the space for this emergence, because what we're creating here is decentralized organization. It's not led by me necessarily. I just need to be really grounded in how that space is held and how this emerges. So I made sure I take some time these last few days to drop into my purpose and what I call my heart. And it deeply reminded me what this is all about. And the real vision here, what we're trying to create, isn't Seeds or just a new financial system or a platform, but it's a regenerative culture, or a thriving culture, as some other people like to call it. And it's a new fabric for how we can interact with each other. And that's also what the Hypha DAO is about. It's being able to show up in a new way. Our current paradigm is more showing up in ways that make money, and how we can turn our natural world and gifts and exchange that and transform it into money. So a lot of our current business paradigm looks like that. But what Hypha is, it's an experiment and an alternative, so that we're not showing up with what we can commoditize, but we're showing up with what our true purpose, what our true passions are, and what our true gifts are. That if we're able to give those, that life and society would be exponentially better with us being able to give that gift. So that's what we're trying to harness with Hypha, is these purpose, and is these collection of passions. So the real intent of this call is to go through everyone who's here. I would like to offer each of you 3 to 5 minutes. I guess we could do 5 minutes based on how many people on the call. So yeah, 5 minutes to step into one, your personal purpose and passion, whatever that is, whatever drives you, whatever motivates you, whatever excites you. 2, how you'd like to show up to create this new society. And that could be, again, any other way. What do you feel like is your gift to the world and your gift to this new movement and this new, say, culture that we're cultivating? And then 3, what role, so this brings it down really tangible, what role in Hypha you'd like to play in relationship to those first 2 things. So yeah, 5 minutes to really dive into that and give people a pretty good introduction of who you are, what you're about, and how you're wanting to show up. Cool. I can go round robin, but maybe for the first few, until we slow down, we can just go by whoever raises their hand and wants to kick us off. So if anyone feels inclined to speak. Mary?
I'm inclined to speak also because I'm on my lunch break. So
perfect. Yes, and that's another way we can organize it too, is based on if you have to leave, go early. So I will give the floor to Mary.
Cool. I'll put my camera on. Hello. Also, I thought it would be interesting for everyone to see I'm right near Westminster. So, you know, it's interesting given the context of this call and creating a new system. So my personal purpose and passion, I guess it's very much aligned with Seeds and Hypha, in that my passion is systems change, a better world, a regenerative society, which ties into my passion because I'm half Greek, and Greece, as you may know, has gone through a really terrible crisis, which has really affected lots and lots of people, and you can see the impact that it's had very tangibly and visibly, which is what inspired me to create the work that I do, which is narrative-led social innovation. My background is in storytelling, working in marketing and advertising, specifically mostly in digital, but I also do branding work as well. So I'm keeping it short. My gift, I guess, was that the question, the second one, the gift to the new movement, is to create a powerful meta narrative. By that I mean a overarching story in the vein of, for instance, what was it when they all went west? I forget, there was a name for it in the States. Manifest Destiny, you know, so there's overarching stories like Manifest Destiny or White Man's Burden, or, you know, these ones have negative impacts, of course, but, you know, they're overarching stories about what our purpose is here in this world as human beings. Because my skill is in writing and in storytelling, I've created a overarching narrative which helps locate ourselves within the current state of the world, and with a view to creating a legacy for future generations that we would be proud to tell all our grandkids about. And hopefully, if the thing has been done correctly, create a legacy that in 1,000 years time, people will look back and say, look what they did back then. So it's it's also very much designed to be regenerative and decentralized. So in terms of a role, or maybe I should say a little bit more because I have maybe a couple more minutes. The idea is to reboot Greece as a beacon of civilization, because the problems of Greece are the problems of the world. We have all the same problems everywhere else: inequality, social breakdown, mass migration of people, economic systems crumbling. So my project involves prototyping new socioeconomic ways of behaving, using arts and culture as a driver for regeneration, and arts and culture in the broadest sense of basically everything humans do, right? So socioeconomic and sociocultural. In terms of a role in Hypha, I would be very happy to bring my skills in branding and storytelling, especially decentralized storytelling. I think that's something that I've realized now that I've kind of been doing without knowing I've been doing it, but now that I'm aware of it, I'm very keen, and I think it fits well with Hypha in terms of creating a powerful narrative that actually other players can plug into. It's sort of like, you know, we're all pieces of a puzzle, so how does my puzzle piece fit with the bigger picture, and how can we all start to tell a story that that detracts attention away from what's currently going on in mainstream media, so that we can get fuel for this new system, you know, and start to build a community around it that's very vibrant and active. And that's me.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
So,
thanks, Mary.
To recap, so a role around storytelling, branding, and being able to get the message out and to relay it in a way that's focused on decentralization. And that's something else Mary didn't mention, is she's been approached by a lot of organizations in the decentralized movement to speak to her about branding because of her gift and how she's able to communicate that message in a clear and coherent way. So,
Yeah, I'm helping a lot of other organizations with their own messaging. But I think if it's all going to ramp up, I think everyone has to have a sort of a seed, if you like, of the bigger story within their own narrative, and how, you know, it plugs into that. So yeah, that's it.
perfect. And that is exactly 4 minutes and 55 seconds. So I, as a facilitator, I'm going to keep everyone at 5 minutes, just so we're making sure we're staying here. So when you start getting close to that, I'll warn you, and then I'll just make sure I cut you off, just so we can be fair with everyone's time. Thanks, Mary. Is there anyone else who'd like to volunteer going? They would like to, if they have to go. Okay, Nick, we got a hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Reiki. Yeah, I thought I'd share in as my sharing will follow on fairly well from Mary's. In terms of my passion, what's emerging, what has emerged for me in the last few years is it's around the power of story, and the place that should have in our lives, the place that has in taking us from any here to wherever we want to go. So I'm recently emerged from the old world in terms of growth and work, and trying to move into something that's more purpose driven. My background is in agriculture, very connected to the land, but very much grown up through intensive agriculture, and now looking at the world with a different set of eyes. So I bring that perspective as well, and my work has taken me into the marketing communication space, particularly around content and writing, and I now am aware that constructing story there, even at the individual written piece, it's just as relevant when you start to get up to branding and positioning. So I was really enjoyed hearing what Mary was saying. In terms of how I'd like to turn up, for me, a lot of the work at the moment is to be more from the heart, more authentic, greater integrity than in the mind. And I have a sense or insight that we're not going to get where we need to go just because of fear of the sticks. We need to be aspirational where we're heading, in terms of people. The fear is only going to take us so far, and it won't take us fast enough. That's my insight. What we have to generate is a future that's so aspirational that when it comes down to a choice of a new car or the new future, it's a no-brainer. When it comes down to, do I buy an iPhone or do I not? It's not a sacrifice. It's not a choice. It's a desire. And I think that's where, almost, if you like, the scientists, you know, and that side have done their work. We know what the problems are. We know where we need to go. But actually, there's almost a marketing job to be done, to engage people on a huge scale, that becomes self-perpetuating. And so my role within Seeds, it's that branding, that positioning, it's that story, it's coming at it from a content perspective, and also then tying in and collaborating with all those others within that space to create a really effective and solid story for us to work within. So yeah, really grateful to be here, and good to see so many different faces. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. And a common theme that just got started is how we're telling a story, because that's what Seeds and Hypha really is about. It's just another way of telling the human story. And so, yes, 100%, Nick, it's about framing it that it is an opportunity and that it's so much better in every way. No, there's no sacrifice needing to be made here. So I love that. Beautiful. All right. Who else would like to go? We got Ed. Take it away.
That's awesome. So I guess my passions, like over the last couple of years, really that have emerged are seeds, stories, and the synchronicity around them. So like for me, being in this circle, there's beautiful bit of synchronicity. Like I met Mary last night actually, and I love this kind of synchronicity that we're feeding into, and the more we trust in it, the more we reap from it. So that's what I'm really passionate about, and particularly like the curation of the stories, because it's almost for me like nothing is really original. Everything's kind of been told, and it's Terence McKenna had this great quote, and he said, "If you read onwards, you become part of this tale." And I love that, but so few people now have access to some of the origin tales of these stories of what we consume, whether it's, you know, the olives in Greece or, you know, the cacao in South America. You know, everyone's consuming these things, but we're quite detached from maybe the stories around them. So that's a huge passion of mine. I feel like if we can connect people back to the stories of what they're consuming, that's a powerful way to connect the spirit back to its origin and ground yourself, as you said, Reiki. I felt that space between the last call was really good, just to feel into what do I actually want as a role. And the time thing is really interesting for me, because what I really want is a role where I'm trading a surplus of my passions rather than trading my time to then fulfill a role. And so then I really felt into, well, what are my passions? And my passions are kind of telling a story from my perspective, and also curating other people's, other plants' stories that are valuable from my perspective. So chatting to people like Mary about their projects, that's what I really enjoy doing. You know, whether it's someone who's passionate about Greece, or, you know, people who are passionate about restoring their indigenous land back to, you know, guardianship and balancing those natural systems, and really bringing the ceremony back into the normal things of life like this. I love that at the start, having like a little grounding meditation. I wrote a little bit actually when I was meditating the other morning. I was like, that's what I really want. Like it's almost easy to sit in a, you know, singing circle or a sweat lodge and just drop into your heart. It happens so quickly. And I'm really fascinated in the bridge of that coming into the digital realm, into circles like this, which already seems to be well on its way to being built. So that's a great, it's just a great feeling. And in terms of my role, I feel what I'd really like to do is tap into that synchronicity. And me and Ed wrote basically a 30-page booklet with graphics of our vision for a distributed seed bank and DAOs around those seed banks, 5th of November last year. So that's when the Seeds launch date is, and someone else mentioned something else about the 5th of November. But I like playing into that synchronicities, and I feel that's a really powerful message to share how people came to meet, and augmenting. We basically want to do another draft of that vision we had, and augmenting the different projects that could help, you know, take it to the next chapter. And I love the word you used earlier, you know, fabric. So we kind of talked about building this smart canvas where all consumption kind of becomes a ceremony, or an act of art, because you're connected to it all. And I feel like the plants are a great medium for this, a great fabric for this new story to be told on, because they're already distributed. We don't have to try and distribute it, like, you know, organic production of these little, not necessarily, you know, the big companies who are producing olive oil or chocolate, but on the grassroots level, there are these little projects all around the world that have kind of done the distribution for us. So I'm really keen to tap into what nature's already done there, and use that as a framework for distributing, whether it's a what's the word people call minimum basic income of sorts. And the final thing I'd say is the space holder. I love that, Reiki, and I almost feel like this DAO almost feels like it's going to be it's space holding, and what then comes out of the DAO is the exciting thing. And if we can get that right on on one level here, that would be then very applicable around different geographical locations where we can just give it to people and say, look, we've tested it out, this works. We've made it simple enough, give it a go, have sovereignty over your community, but also connect to all these other people around the world who are, on your vibe. Great. So yeah, that's basically the gist of it. And I'm excited to basically tell a story with everyone, or live a story. Live a story, I think is better.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, and just to clear up how there's some more synergy and relationship there, setting up these seed banks. One supports the local food economy, which Seeds is designed to support as well, and getting those genetic libraries of seeds stored and getting more heirloom seeds there too. So it's supporting the diversity of our organic and biological life as well. So I'm really stoked on connecting those seed banks and getting that as a nice foundation. Then you could also buy seeds for seeds. I mean, that's just practical. So cool. So who wants to go next? Do you want to follow Ed? Cool. Ed and Ed.
Yeah, sure. Ed too, coming in. So yeah, my name's Ed. I'm based in the UK, and I've been working with the other Ed for I'd say a couple of years now on this other project, which is also called Seed. And yeah, we connected with Reiki not too long ago, and we just felt the synergy and the synchronicity of it. And so we thought, how can we sort of align our visions? And just about myself personally, I was sort of fascinated by sort of sustainable agricultural systems and regenerative societies. I guess in a way you could frame it as sort of positive anarchism, because I think anarchism has a bit of a negative connotation with it these days. And from that, and from the decentralized movement, how can we use that sort of technology to basically empower, whether it's smallholder farmers, cooperatives, communities, and at the same time, basically incentivize a distributed network of communities to store seeds and help preserve the biodiversity of the earth, and make food access and food safety more, increase it. So I sort of came at it from a farming perspective, and how can I help people? Because that really, at the end of the day, is probably the biggest passion of mine, is how can I help people? I love dropping into my heart and being of service to others, and I feel like that's how I get it best in return as well. And so how could I help Ed? Well, Ed had this pretty complex idea, and I think it needed to be translated into sort of everyday designs, whether that's a mobile app design or a website, the content for it, etc. So trying to decrypt this this language that he was using into sort of layman's terms. But my role in that has been more focused on the design. So I've been basically head of the product team with a team we're working out with in the States, designing that. So that's from websites, branding, logos, those sorts of things, to mobile applications, desktop applications. I'd say my biggest passion is probably mobile applications and desktops. But I prefer to focus my work around the purpose of helping others. I don't really want to create the next, Tetris would be a pretty cool game to create, but Candy Crush or whatever. My aim was never to get into technology to just make money for the sake of make money, or making apps for the sake of making them. It's actually, okay, well, what is this app being used for? And the UX behind it as well, of how can we make it as user-friendly as possible? Because a lot of the people that are going to be using this technology don't know much about smart contracts, multi-signature wallets, all of these sorts of things. So it's basically, how can we simplify it and gamify it in a sense, so that it's actually fun to use? And in return, how can it benefit your society? So Ed was talking about these seed banks we want to create, and essentially each one is revolved around a DAO, and we wanted to create a template for that DAO, which consists of things like an inventory system for the seeds and the library, as well as, you know, community banking service, multi-signature wallets, access to basically a wider marketplace. And then things like transaction fees can feed directly back into the community. So it is this regenerative cycle, as well as trying to find out exactly where our produce comes from. Essentially acting as sort of nodes in a network where they can verify the stories in our supply chains. And so what I would like to probably do with the Hypha DAO and the way I see my role being played out is, I spoke to Simon and Alex, who I think are heading up the design operations, and I'd love to just help them out as much as possible with things like UX reviews, onboarding new users, designing new features and how they can integrate. And then I also see that sort of merging with a bit of an ambassador role. So organizing London meetups, basically being a face of Seeds in the UK. Again, helping onboard new users, maybe creating sort of online content like video blogs or blogs and things like that. And yeah, so I'm just here to help. I'm here to drop into my heart as much as I can. And yeah, let's build the dream, because that's what it's all about.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I want to thank you all again. Well, not again for this, but I want to thank you. You guys have been doing perfect with time. So, I mean, the natural flow is just excellent. So I burned up your last 20 seconds complimenting you for doing that.
Perfect.
Thank you. I love it. So Cece would like to go, so I'm going to pass it to her.
Let me see if my video will work now.
Good.
It's good? Perfect. Okay. So, hey guys, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about me, but I stay kind of in the background. Technology is not my favorite thing, but I really believe in the vision of Seeds. So since day one, I've been with Reiki, kind of helping in whatever way I can pull that through. But my specialty and talents and passion really lie in our health and wellness. And I see Seeds as being a gateway to helping our own personal health, but also the planet. And so that's where my passion for the project really lies. And up until now, I've been kind of a jack of all trades, just putting my hands in all these cookie jars and just helping in every way I can, bringing in people and just kind of sharing the vision. But recently, I've kind of fine-tuned where I want my role to be, and that's where the beginning of this call started, because I'm very energetically connected, and I wanted to see how I could bring that to Seeds and help propel Seeds into like the mainstream in a positive way, because technology has a place in this world. We're not going to get rid of it. So how do we take it and we merge it with being a positive influence in our life? And I think Seeds holds the answer to that. So my role will be holding space, opening and creating positive space. So by meditation, by dropping in, even on a personal level, I feel anybody that's on the Seeds team, if there's anything that you need energetically, emotionally, psychologically, I can be there to support that. As far as events go, I'm always on the ground. I love interacting with people in real life, not so much on the computer. So that's why you don't see me very often. It really drains me. But being in real life there on the ground and just promoting the real heart of Seeds is where I find the true passion. So that's my role, and that's where I would love to help you. So if any of you ever feel inclined or called to want to explore any of that with me, I'd be happy. You can always message me, and it'd be best if we could meet in person, but if not possible, I'm happy to drop online and sort you out as best as I can.
So she has a couple extra minutes. I do want to elaborate something and give her a moment to respond. So what I love about the potential of Hypha is for people to be able to show up and give gifts that in a typical corporate setting might not be allocated or counted. I mean, I think a parallel is like a corporate psychologist or psychiatrist who's there for the mental health and really just to like maintain psychotic breakouts for having to work in that environment. But here we're trying to do something a little bit different. And I would like to have roles in space for those people to be able to show up and work on all sorts of levels of what we call health. So mental health, emotional health, and Cece's gift also lies in diet and nutrition. So she's helped a lot of people fine tune their diet, get their health on lock, and reach different levels of potential within themselves. And we could easily justify this as being of value to Hypha if we need to do that, because the better we are individually, the better we are collectively, the better the organization is as a whole. So it's actually in Hypha's deepest interests to nourish not only our psychological health, but also our physical health and our capability to show up. So Cece's demonstrating one of those roles. There's a couple other people, some of which aren't on the call today, that are also wanting to show up in similar roles that's supporting the collective well-being and our health in different aspects. So to reiterate with Cece, if you guys have any questions or concerns about health or diet or life purpose or anything like that, feel free to reach out to her, and she's here to be able to help with that. Beautiful. So on to, is anyone wanting to volunteer to go next? Just awesome.
Yeah, happy to jump in because it's a nice nice jump off point for me in a way, I think. Yeah, I only know one phase half, so there's lots of unknowns for me here, which is quite exciting, but I feel welcomed, and that's a nice place to be landing. And excited. I'm also quite ignorant around Hypha and seeds. For what I have read, I'm excited, but I also really want to acknowledge that I'm not quite in the know as to all of the details and what it is that we're driving for. But that might also that suits me. I like to take decisions from the gut, and this is definitely one of them. So I'm happy I'm here. And for what are my passions, my purpose, I don't necessarily have a specific personal purpose, but I really do have a taking off point from personal values. And there are things that really resonate are empathy, support, expression, honesty, and choice. These are really something that drive me, and I express these in a multitude of purposes that I contribute to. Some of them I get compensated for. You might call those work. Some of them I'm not compensated for. You might call those life. But for me, that's my life. The purposes that maybe some of you are aware of, I contribute some of my time to energize.org, which is an organization here in the Netherlands. I'm based in the Netherlands, and half of my time actually in New Zealand, that does holacracy implementations. So that's I'm a holacracy coach. That's one of the things that I do. I have just joined PowerShift Capital, which is an organization out of the States that is created for purpose investments. So to allocate capital resources for purpose-driven, power-shifted organizations. Really excited about that endeavor. I'm actually going to go to the States next week to really get that kickstarted, which is exciting. And so there's a couple of other things, but the common thread is purpose-driven work. And what are my passions and what are my skills? I think it really revolves around shedding light primarily on the divide between people and organizations. Because I think it's the fact that there's a gap between the person and the organization that creates pain. Because people have lovely, beautiful needs, and organizations have lovely, beautiful needs. And if you don't get clear on what the gap is, there's pain. So a lot of my work, I think, is to create lots of clarity around why the organization exists and what of your passions belong there and which of your passions don't. And I think it's specifically that second question that's really, really crucial, because that doesn't mean they're not important, but that means that you might have to find other ways to express them. And I think a lot of the culture work around creating clarity for that for yourself. The organization doesn't necessarily care, but the people care. So let's really nurture that. And that was also the link that I was trying to tap into. Let's really support the people to get full clarity of what you care for, what you need, so that you can figure out what your contribution is to the organization, if the organization needs it. Now I can keep going on a monologue there because there's lots of passion and excitement there, but maybe that's really where I would like to wrap it up. And So that's also where I would like to show up, to see if I can share some of my experiences to help shape this DAO. Like how's decision making done? How's power holding done? How do people show up? How do you shape those roles? And do you actually need those roles? And where are these divides? Where are these gaps? So I think, yeah, maybe that kind of wraps it up. That's where I'll park it for now.
Yeah, beautiful. And so honored and happy to have you here. And this is another one of those synchronicities that we need to point out. We chose holacracy to implement into the DAO. And I felt like that was such a powerful marriage between the holacracy principles that work for centralized organizations and then the ability with the DAO. And those two forming together is just, it's really exciting. So for just to be able to show up and be like, yes, I understand holacracy and excited about implementing this and taking it from that angle is just really beautiful. So happy to have you here.
Likewise.
All right. Do we have another volunteer for going next? V. Perfect.
Oh, unmute is good. Okay, so I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet without overwhelming you guys. I'm a bit of a mad scientist and I like to dabble with all sorts. I have the best of intentions for this planet and I really want to do good. And so starting with me, like I come from the tech industry in London, where I literally like created the web platforms as a contractor for like Unilever, Bill Gates, and all the bad guys like the Department of Health and, well, I don't know if they're so bad, but either way. And then I shifted over, went to Tulum, Mexico, discovered the tropics, realized that you can't really fall in love with nature until you meet nature. You know, it's like, how can you fall in love with your future wife if you've never actually seen like her or whoever it is? And so, yeah, I realized that I want to get more people tuned in with nature. And so I've been studying regenerative living systems for quite a while. So going out there and traveling and learning with people who have already succeeded so that we can scale up these solutions and distribute them where they need to go. And so I've learned everything from really high quality bamboo architecture so that all of a sudden sustainability is like, you know, regenerative and beyond just okay, it's desirable. And so, yeah, we have all sorts of solutions for getting rid of mosquitoes to like building sustainable and regenerative bamboo, sexy constructions to building with coconuts. And so while that's my ultimate dream, and I've been traveling everywhere to do that, I have a host of allies with me. They are all kick-ass. And so, yeah, if anyone's ever looking for strategic partnerships, I've literally gone to every environmental conference, every blockchain conference, conscious gatherings and like meaningful festivals and whatnot. Because I don't want to just be in one social bubble. I really want to create a wrapper for all of them. So what am I doing right now? I'm helping out a project for clean energy. So they're literally taking discarded biomass and creating a direct replacement for fossil fuels, which is really cool. So we don't need to dig up like old ancient earth from deep within the ground and put it up in the air and turning the world upside down, basically. And we can, you know, create clean energy, which we all want. And even right now, you see the lights powering my house. I'm in Bali, close to Reiki, and it's all from fossil fuels. So it'd be nice to clean that up. And what the main thing I'm doing right now is I'm building the Unity platform, which is a platform to bring us all together. Because right now we're all scattered, we don't know each other, and it would be really nice if we could just pop the app open, realize that I can go out and grab a coffee or just grab a meal with you guys or co-work with one of you guys sometimes and separation and bring our community get together along with our purposes so that, you know, all of a sudden all of your dreams will start to come true. And yeah, and I built the website for Seeds. I'm really passionate about Seeds, and even better than Seeds is the team behind Seeds. And so, yeah, I believe in everyone who's like working for Seeds. Reiki is badass. Thank you for being the person you are, for, you know, compiling this team. And yeah, I'm here to like use every single one of my skills to participate and create turnkey systems for regenerative societies that are literally already proven to work. So yeah, I think with all of our minds coming together, we have so many solutions, and let's do this. So love you guys.
Yeah, love you too. Awesome. So happy to have you here, V. And yeah, to brag about him just a little bit more, since he chose not to, he's built incredible systems that are really tailored around helping people unite and connect more, and ways of being able to foster more relationship and purpose, and infusing that in our digital realm. So as you've seen on our website, it's very well done. And that's, again, work of V, and some of the designs that he has for apps and things that we could bring into Seeds too, to be able to make that more connecting, more grounding. It's just incredible. So nice to have you here, V. I have a hand up from Rob, so I'm assuming that means he wants to go. Also, if you don't have your camera on and you want to put your hand up, then just use the feature on the side to be able to raise your hand.
Cool. Thanks for the intro, Riki. And felt it was good to find Buddy Vishal there. He and I have been chatting about all these regenerative systems and helping to change the world for a while now. So it's good to continue that flow. As an intro, my name is Rob, and I am from Earth. And I feel as though my home is among the stars. So my goal is to bring the cosmic wisdom down to our earthly plane and help us all raise the collective vibration of humanity to peace, love, and happiness. Getting a lot of nods there, so feels like I'm on a good frequency here. And yeah, I got connected to Seeds and Riki through a community called the Mycelial Network. And we're working on building the MycoNet, which is very similar to a mycelium network you may see in a forest, which is able to connect all the trees together so they can share nutrients. And that's kind of what Seeds is doing, where, you know, helping to actually be the medium by which the nutrients are shared. And the MycoNet is a way of showing people, hey, these are all the awesome new paradigm structures and organizations that are out here changing the world. So I've spent my career on, you know, being involved in the new paradigm and growing my own gifts and skills in that movement, in going from the way things were into the way things will be. And that has initially been focused on technology and entrepreneurship and science, and has shifted to things like spirituality and social structures, and most recently into shamanism and the art of tending sacred fires, holding space for sacred ceremonies, holding or experiencing sacred communal gatherings. Over the past 3 years now, I've been to, what is it now? I believe 70 conscious events, festivals, conferences, gatherings, with the intention of meeting people and inviting them to join this new paradigm of existence and to achieve their own awakening. You know, hey, you don't have to be a part of this system anymore if you don't want to. You can come join us and you can come be a part of something better. So that has led me to my current path, which is beginning a global pilgrimage to speak to the world about this movement and to inspire everyone to come into their most authentic selves. I would say that I define my most authentic self as a being that is able to bring the sacred into the present moment, and I intend to do that for the rest of my life. Any way that I can contribute that to the Seeds movement, I'm willing to do that. And as far as my purpose, gave a little bit of that in the beginning, but to clarify, I believe that I am here to help change the world. And the way that I would like to do that is by simply being myself and allowing that to be the medium of transformation, to go from the deep ancestral trauma that we all have to the awakened joy that is possible and is our divine right as humans. The way that I see myself helping out in the seeds movement is by being that ambassador that helps people come from the old into this new way of being that seeds is helping to create with the global passport, with the seeds currency, and to unite the various ecosystems, the eco villages, the indigenous tribes, and the people that are creating the spaces, the physical places that we can go when, not if, when this civilization collapses. And, you know, helping, making sure that they have everything in place to do that. And I believe that this is the organization that's on the right path to make that happen. And, you know, keeping that flame lit, because, you know, sometimes we fall off into a little bit of sadness as we do our work at our computers, but, you know, bringing that light back to the situation is always positive and helpful. So thank you for listening. That's all I have to say for today. How'd I do on time, Ricky?
Perfect. 20 seconds to spare.
Yay.
Beautiful. So honored to have you here, Rob. Thank you. And he brought up 2 points I just want to share quickly. Is one, the importance of that ambassador role that several people are showing up to play, and being able to be that face in those regions, working with people on the ground and organizations on the ground, and then helping form that bridge of alliances into Hypha and Seeds and this whole movement as a whole. I mean, really, we're calling it Hypha right now, but at some point fairly soon, I believe we're going to call whatever alliance emerges something else, and that's going to be, you know, co-created as all these organizations start showing up. The second part is that the notion of using festivals to get seeds out. It's an obvious choice as being a medium of exchange at festivals. A lot of festivals have to either pay another platform or technology to be able to accept payments cash-free. Cash is a big problem there. But we get to kind of flip that switch and say, here's a technology you can use to accept payments at your festival, and it's not going to charge you any fees. And you're supporting the regeneration of our planet and this new paradigm movement, et cetera. And then as people get introduced to seeds through that way, they associate seeds with the festival and mentality. And there's so many layers of why that just makes sense. But festivals is going to be one of our main outlets. And I'm not going to talk too much on that because I believe a couple people here will be. So Dakota has his hand up and will, so we'll pass it on to there. Again, thanks, Rob.
Aloha. Hello, Hypha. What's good? Glad to be here. My name is Dakota Kaiser. And it was a good segue riff where you're just talking about the ambassador role, because that's one way to look at what I'm here to offer Hypha and Seeds. I wanted to kind of intro with just saying, like, wow, I really, really love Seeds modeling. I've been in this space of decentralized autonomous organizations in one form or another for about 7 years now. And I've investigated a lot of the ones that are accessible. And there is just a lot of really special things in the core modeling of Seeds, including a few things that I've never seen and never conceptualized of. And that in and of itself just makes me really excited and very excited to be a part of supporting this and being a part of it. Yeah, deep dive into the logic behind it. I'm absolutely in love with it so far. And after spending time with Reiki and other members of the team, my heart really feels a strong alignment and resonance as well. So connecting on all levels so far, it's been pretty great. So I, in my life, have found myself working in a pretty broad variety of industries, from things like natural and commercial construction to programming, graphic design, investment funds, a lot of different technical projects, and now starting to get into the space of hardware, engineering, and distribution. And at this point, what I do the most of in my life is I create strategic partnerships. So I am able to really feel into any given relationship, any network of relationships, organizational to individual relationships, and just really feel into what is a win-win-win outcome that everyone can walk away with and walk up to, so to speak. And so I have helped build a lot of strategic partnerships in my life. And that kind of idea train segues into the Earth Nation, which is another decentralized autonomous alliance of different decentralized autonomous organizations and other also more centralized organizations, including for-profit businesses, for-benefit organizations, nonprofit orgs, etc. And as a whole, with the Earth Nation and the partnerships I've helped make so far in my life, I feel like we have a lot of cool things to offer Hypha. Distribution outlets and access to farmers and properties and some different technologies. And I'm excited to see where the collectives merge on that. And as an individual, I'm really super excited to bring seeds to many, many places across the world. I think that there is a really big chunk of humankind that's ready for this leap here now. And I'm excited to be on the edge of that. And that's my wrap. And I'm also here with Mason, who would like to go next if possible.
Absolutely.
All right.
Amazing. What's up, everyone? Great to meet every single one of you. It's so amazing how many people are on this project. It's just, yeah, so much gratitude for Reiki just for putting all of this together. And I just wanted to say so much honor and respect for the way that you are really going about this project and the way that we are going about it. Because I feel that, it just isn't often that I see people creating something that is truly made in just such a decentralized way. And I think the way that you talked about yourself as the space holder for this organization is just so honorable. And I mean, we've had various conversations about seeds, and just having gone through the website, I love the number of pieces that touches on. I love, I just think the design of it is beautiful. And I'm just so excited, out of all of the currencies that I've heard of, this is honestly the one that I've been the most excited about from the ones that I've heard of. And so, just to say a little bit about myself. So I'm the CEO of Hypha International. We do culture consulting for companies as well as co-living, co-working retreats for entrepreneurs. And basically the way that I would like to be involved in Seeds is I would very much like to start using it for my own organization to accept payments as soon as that makes sense. And also similarly to Dakota, one of my intentions is really to be able to be an interface for a lot of these companies that are coming in from Silicon Valley and other entrepreneurial cultures, mostly in the States, but also internationally, to really be an interface between that world and both Seeds as well as, all of these other beautiful conscious projects that are happening, and being able to spread these projects not just on a B2C scale, but actually on a B2B scale. And so I would definitely, as soon as it's working for us and everything, I would love to be able to make this connection to the companies that will be serving, the startups will be serving, and everything, and really start to, bring this to be. Because absolutely, when we have this pool of money that we can assign to different pieces and we can take ownership of that, and just being able to have that, and how rare is it to have that in a group of people where so many of them are also transformational, because that's when we can really fully establish this level of trust that we need to make sure that we really are building something beautiful. And so, I really see my role being on the user side, on the networking side, and also if ever it seems relevant, I would love to be able to donate my time to be able to implement some of the consulting work that I do if that ever seemed interesting. So that basically revolves around taking the vision for Seeds and what we want to create with this and how we see ourselves in the future, and then actually designing the transformation and holistic systems that Cece talked about in a way that is really driving and building the energy that we are anchoring in with seeds into our own bodies and our morning practices or night practices throughout the day, so that even with this being a remote organization, I can have that like super cohesion, which I know it has already, but I just wanted to add that as something that I would love to be able to contribute. So thank you so much. It was incredible. It's incredible to be meeting each one of you. And I really look forward to this journey and how it evolves.
Beautiful. Thanks, Mason. Thanks, Dakota. You guys are awesome. So happy to have you guys here. All right. Who would like to go next? All right, so if we have no volunteers, I'm just going to start calling on people in the order they haven't gone as far as my screen appears. And that would be Reggie.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, nice to meet you guys. And I think this is, I mean, I joined one call before, but I think this is the first time I've sort of been on a live call. I've watched other calls with some of you guys on there. So yeah, great to hear what you guys are all working on. Maybe what I'll do is kind of give a little bit of my background, and that can kind of like weave in the stuff that sort of personal purpose stuff and how I'd like to show up. So yeah, it's always tricky to figure out where to jump into to this backstory, but I guess I'll start with starting a company with a friend of mine. It was about 7 years ago, and really wanting to make sure the company did as much good as we could and not do much harm, and also see the how we were interacting with the people who were coming in a way that really matched the value that they were bringing. So we basically started using like stock options as a form of internal currency, because once I started learning about stock options, I was like, oh, that would be the way I'd like to get paid. So we set up that system. That was a system that that was sort of part of my role as the CEO, was to create those setups for each person. And part of what felt really important was to really make it about the value that they were bringing, and not how good of a negotiator they were. So for some people that meant like adjusting them down. For other people it meant adjusting them up. And I think there's a way to do that, or there was, I think, a way to do that where you can actually build the relationship in either case. So we set up that system, and the company did quite well. We grew to about 300 people, and we recently sold the company. And that was sort of the other reason for starting the company, was to get freed up financially to work on things that I really cared about. So I left the company, or transitioned out as CEO about 4 or 5 years ago, and worked on some other stuff, meditation platform, things like that. But maybe where to pick this up again is, I was heading over to New Zealand. I really I can't remember who it was, maybe one of the eds talked about really being of service. So I was heading over to New Zealand and really set this intention of wanting to be of service, and had this value in equals value out kind of framework. And then when I was in New Zealand, I went to a Charles Eisenstein retreat. It was a pretty small retreat, maybe 20 people. And then that's when I heard that River was given personhood. And that in itself was like blew my mind, because I think like that's part of the reason that corporations have so much power, is they have legal personhood. And then sort of holding these different ideas in my mind, like I got a download while I was having a conversation with somebody around like, okay, well, if a river can own itself, it could own other assets too. And rivers and mountains, they provide so much value, but they can't negotiate for the value that they provide. So if we're really going to honor this value and equals value out principle, shouldn't we make the rivers and the mountains co-founders of our companies? And if they're co-founders of our companies, early co-founders, shouldn't they be on the board too? Or you could find someone who could speak as best they could for the interests of the river and the mountain, and then put that person on the board. And so I ended up sharing this at a conference, a New Frontiers conference, and then 5 people came up that had founded companies and said, I want to give some of my stock to a river and I want the river on my board. And I was like, okay, well, I guess this is the next thing I'm going to be working on. So that started about 2.5 years ago. And it's been a really cool journey about, for me too, getting reconnected with nature. And also connecting with a lot of really amazing Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people too, and getting connected in with people who were actually connected to the Wanganui River and connected to Mount Taranaki, which also has personhood. So on the Earth Equity team, there is Jamie Tutau, who's the chief negotiator for Mount Taranaki. Oh, 5 minutes. I'll try to wrap this up in a minute. And Tamaho Rowe. So working with those guys on setting up Earth Equity, figure out how we do the board seat. And then also I've consulted with other startups on how to do the value and equals value out exchange. And also talked with Reiki about how you can do that in a decentralized way with kind of like a gratitude currency where different people within the organization can recognize each other for the gifts that they bring. So I'll stop there. It's pretty early here. I'm not really firing on all cylinders, so happy to talk more in the future with you all.
You get a little bit of a break because you came in at 5 a.m., so I understand. But 2 important things I just want to recap on with Reggie showing up is that value in, value out. That's on 2 levels, how people are showing up to Hypha and the original contribution and original tokens they earn from them showing up. So it's a way of creating a framework to say, this is the value you're coming with, and then issue you value as you show up. And that could be in a way of like stock options and stuff. Second is how we do that with organizations. So it's the same concept. There could be an organization that's been working for 3 years to create the regenerative society. It just wasn't on the Hypha brand, but they're still bringing an incredible amount of value to Hypha and to Seeds and the other projects. So this is a framework for understanding what that value is and then delivering that value to them as they show up. And I feel like if we get these 2 parts right, and Reggie's got, I think, the framework that is right, or at least with some minor tweaks, that we have the capability to take Hypha exponential like it can, as we have a way of being able to onboard lots and lots of organizations and people into this collective movement. So it's a really, really powerful point. And then, yeah, we talked about the gratitude tokens, but we can get into that at another time. So awesome. Great to have you here, Reggie. Really excited about that. Michael.
Cool, thank you. It's been incredible hearing everybody's stories. So my purpose, or rather passion, the reason I do this, I have I'm a single dad to a 5-year-old daughter. I've resisted having children through 2 marriages and my entire life because my worldview has been that the world is fundamentally broken, and so why would you bring a defenseless person into the world? When it happened, I thought, well, I better start doing something practical. So what drives me is her 21st birthday in 2035. 2 of the gifts that I bring, the first was a very clear and vivid download that I received in 2004 during an out-of-body experience. And it was pretty much about the kind of society that we're talking about now. So, pardon me, I've turned that into story form and released that on Medium. That resulted in a following of about 18,000 readers. So the way in which I'm interpreting the download seems to be resonating with people. And the reason I told the story is just because it is such a complex thing to try and convey. And so I see the story being a nice parallel to what you're doing, Reiki, which is rolling this out and actually making it work. The second gift that I bring is my past background was technology, working with large corporates as a project director. I ended up implementing, I don't know how many projects it was, but all multi-million-dollar projects in many different countries around the world. And recently, since meeting Gian here in Cape Town, I presume he's going to give his intro soon, he's bringing to the table a beautiful strategy of how this transition can be made. But it was a little overwhelming. And so part of what I think I can do from a project management perspective is to break it into work chunks and turn what could be something complex into a fairly simple to understand story. So we've got a very nice Kumu presentation that unpacks all of that. So the role I'd like to play, pardon me, is one that I haven't seen described yet in the document that you've shared. It's probably closest to one that was called, I'm just calling up my notes again quickly, the core ecosystem clarity one, but maybe aligning that with a partnership role as well. And what I mean by that is, from an evolutionary coherence perspective, I think there's a real opportunity here to make sure that seeds doesn't go down a rabbit hole that ends up being its own making. In other words, aligning with what else is going on in the world. So if you think about stigmagy as an organizing principle, there are signals being made all around the world from other people working in sometimes related, sometimes completely unrelated projects. And I've been scanning and focusing on those for many years now. So to maybe bring that to the Hypha environment in a way that makes sure that we're evolving the way the rest of humanity is evolving. So it's basically a way, and when I say project manager, so I've tongue-in-cheek changed all of my social media profiles very recently to say that I'm volunteering to be the project manager for the transition. But the more I talk to people about it and the more I think about it, it's actually a very needed role. Not so much to drive the project forward, but just to bring coordination and visibility to everybody working in this space. The other thing I think that a role like that does is it makes, number one, it makes it appear achievable. So it's not just a woo-woo pie in the sky theoretical conversation we're having. It's actually a real project that is unfolding. And then the other reason is just to give confidence, because very often, and I've seen this happen with a lot of projects, there's burnout because they don't realize how close they are to making a big breakthrough because they're unaware of some other development that's happening that could support them. So if we were all aware of what's going on, I think it would generally create much more alignment and enable us to get through quicker. I'm very much in favor of the term thrivability as opposed to regeneration, just because intellectually it creates a very different view of what we're working towards. In other words, we're not just working to fix up the mess that's been made. We're working towards an entirely new paradigm, a new way of thinking. And it's only in the rolling out of what Seeds is doing that I think we're going to even get a glimpse of what that might be. I think we have to all be honest. We might have seen little bits of where this could go, but what will unfold is something unknowable to all of us right now because of how steep we've been in the past paradigm. Just to reiterate what somebody else was saying earlier, I'm sorry who it was, but I've researched numerous tokens, numerous blockchain projects, and this is the first one that resonated with me deeply. Since then, I've dived into every interview that Reiki has done, anything that I can find online I've consumed, and I'm more and more convinced that the heart space from which this is coming from is sound and solid, and I'm fully willing to put all of my energy and effort behind it. That said, I haven't understood any of the crypto design issues, the token design issues, and I would at some stage like to see some detail around that. But from what I've heard so far, very, very pleased and proud to be part of this initiative. Thank you, Reiki, for creating and holding the space.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to have you here. And Yin might mention it, but also something that Michael's working on is called Tipping Point Festival, and it's these festivals for the transition to effectively take place, and for where you can show up and dance and listen to music and enjoy our time transitioning into this new world. So it's a place for doing like hackathons, and for Seeds perspective, Seeds, its platform offers a different way for organizations to earn revenue without necessarily charging fees. So we could do hackathon sprints around how we can build these better than free platforms to replace all the current platforms out there that exist, and how we can just understand these new market strategies so that people can then take that into conceptualization and build platforms that utilize that the best way possible, so that we aren't just circling back around with the current platforms that we have. We're actually making revolutionary new ones that are designed to serve people opposed to just make money. Yeah, beautiful. Cool. Who would like to go next? If there's no volunteers, then I will pick Simon. You look like you're next.
I had a feeling you were going to do that, Reiki. I was frantically making notes. I thought I might flip things a little bit with the format, because it might be interesting for the rest of the guys here on the call, and give it like a little bit more depth, maybe backstory, a little bit more info about the team that's got us to where we are now. So I'm a co-founder of Hypha, and I've been helping to fund development of seeds. And in addition to the funding, contributing hands-on, initially focusing on development of the seeds and Hypha brands. So designing logos, contributing on website design and content. We have an animation in the works, which hopefully is going to be a brilliant piece of marketing material for us to exploit. Available end of October. Side note, I own a creative services company, which is, I have my team working on that, a big team working on that. That's going to take a couple more months though. But aside from the visual stuff and the branding stuff that I've been hands-on with, I've been increasingly sort of contributing more broadly on organizational matters, strategizing and planning, tackling sort of various challenges as they come up as the organization grows. And this is a big phase shift sort of that we're tackling right now with the DAO. So with the organizational stuff, strategizing and planning, collaborating on that with Reiki and the other co-founders, Alex and Max, primarily. I wanted to mention Alex and Max specifically because they're really key members of the team and have been putting in sort of countless hours along with their teams, because Alex and Max actually lead specialist teams for front-end and back-end development. And it's very rare to see all of us on the same call. As you'll note, I don't think Alex is here. I don't think Max is here. There's other co-founders as well, actually. Michael, James, Cookie, Anders. I think James might be lurking around somewhere on the call. Hopefully we'll hear from him. No?
Different James.
Okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to quickly go through that to give you guys a sense of maybe a bit more depth, because you don't see all of us on the calls all the time. Personally, my background is, or my passion, pretty much lifelong passion, has been all things design. Type, graphics, images, mostly images, music, buildings lately. 27 plus years in storytelling in the advertising world. Getting briefs on stories and working out how to tell them effectively. So considering the visual content and the written content, all that sort of stuff. But it's also about 22-ish years since I started my first company as well. So I haven't really had a conventional career working in companies. I've always kind of defined my own career. So I'm designing companies and designing my life as well. So the concept of defining a role in Seeds and Hypha, that's something luckily I'm really comfortable with. Yeah. See, I think, like, it's it might be worth us. No, I won't even. No, I won't get into that. Not the time. My role, you've probably got a bit of a sense about that now. It'll hopefully continue going forward, same sort of stuff. Across a couple of roles, the branding, delivery of that, and organizational stuff, strategy and planning, that sort of thing. I spend about half and half of my time, sort of 50% on each of those roles. And I spend about 20 hours a week working on Seeds and Hypha at the moment. So I thought that might be interesting sort of facts for you guys. Yeah. How was that for time?
Slightly over, but perfect. So to brag a little bit more, the company that Simon has is Light Farm, which is another massive synchronicity. Before Hypha, we were going to call it Light. So anyway, they just won a Carnes Lion for their animation, which is a very prestigious animation award. These guys are like Pixar quality stuff. Really, really beautiful, really, really emotive and intense. And that's what we're putting together for Seeds for our first release come November. It's going to be beautiful. I've been in a couple of the briefs so far getting it set up, and I'm really, really stoked for it. And yeah, I'm going to be really impressed by that. So it's doing incredible work, incredible designs. Thanks, Simon. Honored to have you here. Beautiful. So no hands up still. Would anyone like to interject, or am I calling on someone? Okay, then next up we have Doug. Or Douglas.
Oh, hey, thanks very much. I apologize for not sharing my video, but I have seen my face this morning, and you're just going to have to go with me on this. My name is Douglas Horn. I am very, very excited actually to be here. It's rare that you come into a group of people who you're meeting for the first time and just keep hearing these overlapping themes of synchronicity, or the same strange stuff that for 40 plus years I thought I was the only one who cared about. So I live in the mountains outside of Seattle, Washington, in the United States, not terribly far from where Paul Stamets has been doing his, mycology work, leadership, and for 30 years. It's interesting for me to be able to just like mention a person like that and not necessarily and think, maybe some people actually know who I'm talking about, right? I have been long, this is a valley that's drained by a iconic Snoqualmie River with a well-known waterfall, and it's one of the world's largest temperate rainforests. I have been a storyteller. I've worked as both as a novelist and as a screenwriter and director in Los Angeles and in the independent film world, and in the advertising world for technology companies, in the game invention creative field. I've been somebody who's had a lifetime interest in biodynamic farming and organic farming, and yet for a period of time became the sort of the custodian of a farm that had been in our family for over 100 years in the state of Iowa, which my earliest memories are of being there when somebody lived there, and it grew a variety of things, and sort of a sadness of seeing that it currently is, was a plot of, irregular trapezoidal shaped plot of land in very straight rows where all the, where the chemical agriculture made it almost impossible to do any other type of farming. And so I've been, over the course of my life, there are many echoes to what I hear from you. I'm very excited when you find that you in a group of people that where you have so much synchronicity. It's sort of a Kurt Vonnegut Karras type idea of maybe this is a place that you're supposed to be. So regarding, that's a bit of a random background of myself. More to the point, I work in the area of technology. I the shorthand is that I was essentially the founder of Telos. Don't really believe in founderism, so I try to focus on what I actually did, which is write the white paper and lead the technological team. And so I've spent the last probably almost 2 years, starting first with working on the launch of the EOS system, which I had great interest in the early days, for its ability, for its technological strength, but more for all the peer-to-peer voting, governance, DAO, DAC creation tools that I thought would be deeply important for actually allowing people to organize themselves in ways that had never been possible before, and what could empower the creation and management and growth and thriving of organizations just like Seed. So in that process, I became a bit disillusioned as I realized that all the parts that I was most excited about with EOS had actually remained unbuilt, and nobody seemed as upset about that as I did. Because those were the very tools that I thought were most important. So I brought together a grassroots group of people across the world, and we launched something called Telos, which undertook to build all of those tools, and we continue to build those. Those are the tools that allow the voting, that allow committee management, that allow the actual creation for groups like Seeds, and I think many others. But did you raise your hand? Sorry. I saw Ricky raising his hand. So sometimes I go along, so I'm trying to be conscious of that. So I felt it was important to build these tools. If we didn't build these tools, then every organization that was trying to change the world and do positive things and bring people together peer to peer, which is how I think that we need to work as human beings if we're going to improve our, somewhat depressing, current situation in the world. But I think that these are the antidote to that. These are the underlying tools. These are the hammers and saws that let us build something that can ultimately have the value, right? So my company, Good Block, led the development of, in fact, all of these pieces that ultimately became Telos, that have with the idea that we can roll this out into a world where organizations like Seeds don't have to spend all their time figuring out the tech, reproducing, reinventing the wheel of how we actually, create the tools we need to interact with people and to do our business, but instead have that piece be easy so that all the other hard pieces can receive the focus that they need. So to that end, we built a number of voting tools. We built a number. We're just wrapping up what I actually think is going to be one of the most important anti-censorship tools in the world, which is a form of decentralized storage that can't be that easily accessed through Telos, and that cannot be blocked by by DDoS type attacks or government intrusion. And so I'm very excited about the pieces we're building, because I'm excited about seeing the way that they'll be used. And I feel that my role perhaps here would be to help understand from an architecture standpoint what tools exist on Telos, what to aid the goals and aims of seeds, and to help us most efficiently organize around those, so that we don't have to get bogged down in the actual technology, and we can maintain the focus on the aims and the work. And where necessary, even creating, I have the ability to guide the creation, as the leader of the TELUS core developers, the creation of new tools if we find that seeds, as a leader in this space, needs certain things that we haven't yet envisioned, that we can go and I can interface with the group and we can build those, especially with the idea that as the pioneers in the area are finding new things that we need, certainly those that follow will need those bridges to be built for them as well. So my hope is that I can help in that area. I'm actually quite excited to be a part of a project where I can offer help and value in ways that don't necessarily mean that I have to be out in front of the project. So I've been doing that for the past couple of years. There's no let up in sight. I'm still quite passionate about that project. I mean, that's how I spend my time. That's what I think enables things like Seeds and the many other organizations that will grow out of this. And so I'm quite passionate about that. But it is also very attractive to be able to add a bit of value, be part of a group, and then sort of recede back into the shadows from time to time, which I will do now. So thank you, everybody, for listening, and I really appreciate hearing each of your own stories.
Thank you, Douglas. I gave him a little bit more time because he's also up at 5 a.m. So I understand people in that time zone take a little bit to get going. So a little bit of gateway there. Also, because the relationship between Seeds and TELUS is so important, I mean, another synchronicity, and I'm so deeply grateful for you, Douglas, is a lot of the stuff I thought Seeds and Hypha would need to build in order to actualize, you were doing, and you had that same vision. So when I came across TELUS, it was like, okay, this just put our timeline up an entire year. And this relationship has just been phenomenal. And again, we're deeply grateful for the good grant that Good Block offered us to cover the resource uses for Seeds and Hypha for at least the first year. That's what enables us to have this Hypha DAO where it's not charging anyone anything to actually use it, engage with it, make an account, etc. So it's because of Douglas here that that's all subsidized for you guys as well. So a super rock star in the space, really happy to have him here. All right, so again, thank you. And we have a hand up from James, but I know that's actually Yin. So take it away.
Hi, thanks, Reiki. I thought I'd segue, that was a good segue from Doug for what I do and what I've been interested in, which is work in Commons. So I've been working in Commons with people like Michelle Bowens and Dr. Jose Ramos on a concept that they've been championing for the last few years called cosmo-localism. So I'm a co-founder of Stop Reset Go, and the citizen collective that's created the Tipping Point Festival. And we actually created the Tipping Point Festival concept in 2016, I think. And we just kind of put it back on the bookshelf because we weren't ready for it. But then recently, another member said we should have a festival, a permaculture festival. So I thought, why not rehab the Tipping Point Festival? So that's how the Tipping Point Festival sort of reactivated again. And I think it's interesting because the Hypha, what Reiki and his group has pulled together here is, I think it's been in the collective consciousness for a long time, because we actually were thinking about something like Hypha a few years ago as well. And it was kind of around this concept of the laminin protein. I don't know if you guys know what laminin protein is, but it's the protein in the body that pulls all the cells together and allows multicellular beings to actually exist as one cohesive being. So we've always looked at the laminin protein as the kind of the model for what our civilization needs to migrate to, because it's not about, even though Hypha might exist as has a brand and exists as an organization, what Reiki says is, it's very true. I think a lot of people resonate with that it's about all of us, and we all belong to it. So we all contribute to it, and it's about, actually it's about humanity, you know. So Hypha is just a name for that. But so I think maybe, you know, the one thing I thought about the laminin protein is that it's a way to bind all these transition actors from all over the world, millions of us, into something cohesive. So it's not about joining me, but joining together, right? And I think that's my sense of what Hypha is, you know. So I think that's a really it's been in the collective consciousness, and it's just now it refuses to stay underneath in the subconscious and has to burst out now. So I'm really happy about that. And so I guess if you look at my signature on my email, it's I thought for many years what my signature should be, and I chose future ancestor as my signature, and that's because I think all our time here is you know, so from the moment we're born, we have a finite shelf life, and so what are we going to do with our life? You know, we're all actually future ancestors. We're here temporarily, and then we're going to go there, wherever there is. So how are we going to spend our time here, you know, to make it meaningful? So and I think this project that Reiki's put together and allows all of us from all parts of the planet to come together with a common vision. This is something quite meaningful to me. So I just maybe just quickly name some of the people and some of the notes I took I resonated with. Vishal, I think his name is, talked about scaling and investigating all over the world regenerative practices and so on. So we've been looking into that as well with the concept of the Open Design Commons. So we want to create a foundation in the Netherlands for this, where it's curated designs from all over the world. They're professional, certified, and have interoperability standards so that they can be shared through this cosmolocalism platform. So cosmolocalism, for those who don't know what the term means, it's very simply means design global, make local. So innovators from all around the world contribute to this design platform. It becomes open source, and then it's certified, it's professional. Then any community around the world can download the designs that they need to create their own regenerative, thriving local economy. So I kind of resonated there with Vishal. And then with Doug, of course, because I've worked in the Commons, like with Michelle Bowens and others. And there's actually a volume we just co-authored. I can't remember what it's called, but if I'd known about this project, I would have included it, because it's all about blockchains and using technology to actually facilitate the transition. So I think where our project fits in with what you guys are doing is the Tipping Point Festival is, it's kind of meant to be a festival that will, we're promoting it as happening in 1,000 cities around the planet, but it could be easily surpass that with the people that we've got on board. And the whole idea is that we're trying to reach social tipping points before planetary ones. So that's kind of the tagline. And the value that we can add is that we've been sense making for the last 5 years about how we're going to negotiate this rapid transition, which will require like something that humanity has never been through before, you know, like the change that's required, you know, the paradigm shift. And so we've been thinking about what kind of framework is required to navigate that transition in such a short time. And to do it, we feel that metrics are required, because without metrics, it's kind of ad hoc. You don't know if you're reaching the target or not, the rate of change that has to happen. So we have been pulling together different scientific frameworks, the principal one being urban planetary boundaries from Dr. Daniel Hornvig at the University of Ontario. So we've been working with them to use urban planetary boundaries to actually gamify this transition, so that the global planetary boundaries, these indicators that ensure that our planetary health is not exceeded, is disaggregated into regional levels at metro and city levels, so that cities, those people who live in cities and the metros can actually bend the curve for their own metro, and by bending the curve for their metro, then aggregating all that around the world, we can bend the curve of the whole planet. So that's kind of the one of the main principal scientific frameworks that we want to contribute. And through the Tipping Point Festival, we through our co-founder, who's connected to the entertainment and the live production industry in the UK, we plan to start there with large festivals like, I can't remember the one, the Glastonbury. Yeah, Glastonbury is a friend of our co-founder, and so they're waiting for us to bring a proposal to them. But there's other festivals, like up to 70 in the UK alone, and then there's all the ones in the EU. So we plan to we have a strategy to actually engage all the festivals and unite them all and bring seeds on as the currency that would be used in all these festivals, and hold workshops for transitioning communities, and also what we call human interior transformation workshops to transform, take the journey of transforming ourselves, our mental models and our emotional responses to the world. So that's kind of where we see where we could play our role, kind of as helping to frame it all in a metric, a system that has metrics that can actually show us that we're doing it in time and globally, and then as an ambassador for seeds and this project, Hypha project.
Beautiful, and hell yeah. So one more thing to add is that you and Reggie and Michael, he dropped off, so either way, are designing the DAC, what makes up bioregional boundaries. So it'll be the information and the research done there that's going to help inform those decisions, and then also create a framework for how we're delivering resources that these DACs are getting, that's the local communities, to the regeneration of those bioregions. So it'll be, that framework you've designed. Again, one of the billion synchronicities here. We're saying, hey, we need this framework. You're like, yes, we've been working on this framework for 6 years. We're like, perfect. So thank you. That's just beautiful. Okay, on to the next. Stefano, so you got your hand up.
All right. Hey, everyone. Actually, I want to get can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, cool. So, yeah, first of all, once again, thank you so much, everyone. Deep, deep, deep sense of gratitude to be a part of this conversation, to the incredible work that all of you are doing. Where to begin? With truth. I am 24 hours into what's going to be a 72-hour fast, and already starting to get the tingling of a sense of clarity, which I haven't found any other way. And with that is coming a lot of emotion. We spoke a lot about dropping into the heart space earlier. I think that tends to happen more easily for me when you kind of take these, go through these processes which alter your just default way. So I've been sitting here listening to all of you, and when I look out the window, I look at Table Mountain, which for those of you who haven't yet had the pleasure of experiencing it, is a very prominent mountain, especially when you're in the city bowl. Just rises straight up in front of you like a wall, just a solid wall of rock. And there's a lot of dark clouds over the mountain right now. It feels ominous, and I feel like my sense of dread about the converging crises, the near-term societal collapse that we all know is coming, is reaching this kind of crescendo at the same time as I'm feeling more and more confident about the role that I want to actualize in doing something about it. I went through a time of really finding it difficult to just be happy, knowing that there's so many other people who are not, because of the systemic things that are going on. South Africa is one of the countries in the world with the highest Gini coefficient, so we have extreme inequality, which means we also have extremely violent crime. violent crime is strongly correlated with high inequality. So it's not just, I'm afraid that someone's going to steal my handbag or my wallet or my whatever, if I had a handbag. It's tough because you see it in front of you all the time. And I will by no means think that I have a real understanding of what that means for most of the people who are really living in it. But you encounter it all the time. And if you have any kind of real sense of and feeling, your mind just naturally extrapolates from that what more is going on, and what their life must be like. You drive from Cape Town City Bowl to the airport, and you see the townships, you see the squalor. You have people who've lived there. You hear the stories, and so just to speed it up a few steps, when things start falling apart and we have 20% of the world's agricultural output suddenly disappear because of climate change, it's going to be the poorest of the poor who are going to become violent when food prices go through the roof. And so that brings me to how I would like to be involved. What I'm personally aiming to do is to be involved to promote regenerative agriculture from a business perspective, to use a social enterprise as the vehicle to create demonstration farms where we train trainers and train farmers, and as quickly as possible teach as many people as possible to grow food in a regenerative way, and to do so by aiming at those of the lowest income, because they're the ones who are going to suffer the most the soonest. And where that brings me into seeds, into the Tipping Point Festival, because I met Gian here in Cape Town and I introduced them to seeds, and I'm really, really, really happy that we've got the synergy that we now do. But the bottom line is, when all the other things fall apart, the fiat currency systems are going to too. Also, if we can give people an alternative means of purchasing their food that is based on value that they determine, then great. And because I made the stupid decision of trying to figure out what it means to not have money, I'm now in a situation where I'm first having to prioritize starting that business and securing a income in the default world before I can commit more time to these projects. So for now, my role is going to be that of the ambassador here in my region in South Africa, of bringing on board as many new organizations, entities of any kind, individuals, projects at whatever stage of development as I can into the Tipping Point Festival and into seeds. And yeah, keeping my finger on the pulse of just what's happening in general. I feel deeply. The reason I mentioned gratitude at the beginning, I didn't mention why, and the reason I feel so grateful to all of you is because I feel at home with a group of people who understand what we're going through, yet have the determination and love and grit to do something about it, rather than to fall apart. And I honor all of you for that. It's not easy. I know we've all had sleepless nights because of it. And it's scary. And yet here we are. And yeah, on that note, one last thing I'd like to mention, I have been feeling a distinct lack of woman in this conversation. And as my role as an ambassador, I'm committing to bring as many women and woman-led projects in. I feel like, there's the masculine and feminine energy, but women are the primary holders of feminine energy, and we need that, in every way. So yeah, that's my build. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Definitely yes, with getting more of that feminine energy flowing through in here. I should point out there was supposed to be another 3 women on this call, so you will be seeing them on another call. But yes, we would love to have more of that energy and compassion here. Second, with the seeds and the regenerative agriculture side, yes, it's a big focus of seeds and helping it spread. And where we're wanting to build a framework for a lot of the loans to go to is to set up and help transition regenerative agriculture. That one gives a demand, so these growers are going to have to pay back their interest-free loans with seeds, i.e. they're going to sell their produce for seeds, meaning you can buy food with seeds. So that's how we're wanting to feed that cycle and help distribute regenerative agriculture, is to be financing the development of it. So huge part of that story. All right, so we have one last person to touch on, then I'm going to transition to a little bit more of the DAO stuff. We can go into Q&A, we can get into a little bit of the next steps. We'll try to finish this up just shortly after the hour. And yeah, so we have Igor left over at the end, and then we'll take it from there.
Hey. Also have William. The lighting is not very good. One moment. We'll have to deal with our shadow.
That's quite all right.
At least we're showing you our shadow, and we're not trying to hide it and pretend that we're just love and light all of the time. That is our main expression, but you know, we each have a shadow. So, my name's Will.
What is going on?
Igor. I joined this call because I really wanted to understand more about the people behind Seeds. All of the people that I've come into contact with, I'm super aligned with in terms of vision and mission and action. So I had a very strong gut feeling that that would be reflected in this call, and I'm really honored to meet each of you and learn more about your individual passions and purpose and contribution towards this incredible movement. It's pointless for me to talk about my own purpose and my own passion because it's the same as yours. On a fundamental level, we share the same vision and mission. In terms of action, we are creating Conscious Universe, a social media platform for personal development and spiritual growth. It's also a cryptocurrency called Conscious Coin, and we're going to be sharing the economy with Seeds. We really believe in what Reiki's building, and we want to support it in any way that we can. And the way that we can is to give it as many touch points as possible. So one is through our social media platform, another is through our video production. We have a domain called consciousnetflix.com, and I'd love to do a documentary on Seeds. Although I think Reiki mentioned to me there may be someone already doing the documentary, which is great, saves us the work. We can at least give it a channel and help it reach as many people as possible. I noticed there's many storytellers in this group and also branding masters. I highly recommend that you come together and find some common narrative so that each of you are sharing the same message. It can be different words. I noticed someone said earlier that they preferred thrivability to regenerative or regeneratability, if that's a longer way of saying it. So this I like because it means we can reach more people. Not everyone speaks the same language, but the essence of the story and certainly the brand, you know, the visual aspect behind Seeds needs to be very consistent so that everyone can see the smallest visual display and know what it is straight away. Other than that, I just feel really grateful to be here, and I don't see myself proposing a role in the DAO. I just see myself being myself all of the time, and that will contribute Seeds and the vision and the Hypha DAO. And yeah, the same way I invite you all to be yourself in every moment with true self-authentic expression. I'm so excited and humbled to be here. Such incredible people and building this together. And I believe what we build is not just a company, but it's
a new paradigm of organization, a new paradigm of economy and relationship, where people work together for helping each other with common goals, and using tools that make it efficient. I started actually working on it 3 years ago with this mission to give people an opportunity to connect each other in efficient organizations with economies that gives people motivation to go to do right and good things, and now I am so excited because it's now we are together, and this my dream becomes true in this moment when we create it. And I'm really grateful. Thank you all.
Thank you guys. So happy for you guys to show up. A little bit more context. Will and Conscious Universe is the one that gifted that Why Seeds video that you see at the website as well. So they do pretty incredible videography work. And Igor is the one that's put together a good part of the DAO that you're seeing, doing a lot of the UI side. He's also doing a lot of the smart contract sides on Seeds. So he's an amazing developer. He reads code like I read books. So huge shout out to Igor and all the beautiful things that he's built so far and will continue to build. Amazing. And with that kind of concludes our first community call with intros. So this was all recorded, and my intent here, and I would hope to share this intent, is that we do an introduction one time, and then as people join the call the first time they join, they can introduce themselves in the same manner. And then at the beginning of all the calls, we're getting a good understanding of who all the different members of Hypha is. So this was a one-time affair where we're getting a lot of the core people together. We're going to be doing another similar call just like this in a different time zone, 12 hours difference, to be more biased towards the Australia and New Zealand folks and some more of the European folks that were not able to make it on this call. So we have another 15 people who will be showing up on a second call. Beautiful. And with that, I'm going to just transition into putting some more understanding what this was about. So this was to give everyone context of who's showing up, what they're doing, so that you can reach out to those people and then start forming relationships around role development. So you could see some common threads weaving through here about people who are focused more on the storytelling and branding, or are actually doing the technical work, or doing ambassador work, etc. So this was a way to help you understand who they are, what roles are being filled, and who to connect with. So I leave that up to you guys to make those relationships. And then second, along with that development, working with me or whoever the core ecosystem clarifiers are, that would be Simon, Alex, myself, and Max, working with us on role development. So as you're going through that process of ideating what your role could look like, a lot of you have already done this with me, that's great. Just continue on that process, and then we'll help you get that role up to the DAO. The DAO is ready for that. That is what we're at this stage, is applying all those roles to it and getting them voted on. So yeah, awesome there. So just a final point on each one of the roles. They will consist of a purpose. That's just generally what you just shared here. What gift are you trying to bring to the whole movement? And then some accountabilities. That's what are you saying you're accountable for? What are you responsible for? And what are people rating you on having contributed in order to earn your compensation? So there's a lot of examples about role development that you can look at and that could help base your decision off of. All right, and that is it with me on this. So I actually want to open it up to some Q&A, and then I can end it with the next steps going forward. But I think Simon has a question, so I will give it to him.
Thanks, Raiki. Yeah, I do have a question. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on the differentiation between Hypha and seeds, and more specifically, as it relates to roles.
Awesome.
Is that enough for you? Or?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. So Seeds is a project, Hypha is the organization. And there'll be a lot more projects, and there already are based on the organization showing up, that's going to be taking place within Hypha. So some people playing roles in Hypha might not be doing anything related to Seeds at all. That would be rare, since the intention behind Hypha is to maximize crossover, maximize cross-pollination, crossover, how we're synergizing. So the intent is that all these organizations do play supporting roles in some way or another. But Hypha itself is a decentralized organization that's going to be doing a lot of things, Seeds being one of them. But what Hypha does, I can't even tell you, because after it gets going, that is up for everyone to decide what we're going to collectively do. And as we work together and build our skills of collaboration at scale, what we can accomplish out of there is near limitless. It's up for us to be able to collectively decide what our next steps are. Seeds is just one project that's in that pipeline for us to do. But with the launch date come November 5th, with the go live date early next year, we're going to run out of that project fairly soon. Once that's live, it'll have its own DAO governing its process. So Hypha could still be playing a supportive role to Seeds, but we would be moving on to other projects at that point. Plus all the projects that organizations are already talking about bringing to the Hypha organism right now. So as far as committing roles to Hypha, we're thinking it in the context of Hypha itself, not necessarily Seeds. Does that make sense? It could be a role for Seeds as well, but it could be a role. So if you're a developer, you could be developing stuff on Seeds, but you'll be likely developing other stuff Hypha is putting out as well, or the other organizations that are joining Hypha. If you're a developer building a wallet that Seeds is going to be using, well, that wallet could be built in for all the other projects and organizations that consist of Hypha. So that will be some overlap there. And then that developer would be earning tokens from all the projects that are using the code that he's creating. So he can go and advise, 15 other different projects that say all of them need a wallet. And instead of each one of those projects paying their own developer to build the wallet, they could all tell this guy what they need as far as a wallet goes. He could build it and be compensated from all of those projects. And that could mean that other projects could have their own tokens as well. So Hypha has its own token that works for the whole ecosystem, but each project can, they don't have to, but can have their own token. Like Seeds has pre-seed, so it has its own token for that project. But let's say Tipping Point Festival can come in here and say, create a Tipping Point Festival token, and that could be designed in any other way that it could look like. And then people who are part of Hypha could be giving time to that, earning part of Hypha because of all the overlap, and then earning Tipping Point Festival tokens. And ideally, we're going to be seeing some crossover between that and Seeds and building similar stuff. So that one person could be earning Seeds and Tipping Point Festival tokens and Hypha tokens just because his contribution is actually serving all of those projects. Hopefully that was clarifying rather than confusing. Yeah, follow up.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and it's kind of a can of worms as well, in a way. I mean, a lot of people are learning about what we're doing via the Seeds website, and that's attracting people to that initiative, and Seed and Hypha is like the first platform with the DAO that they can kind of sign up to and contribute on. But I think it's important to be clear on, are you really wanting to contribute with this with Seeds, or is this a Hypha role?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that distinction's made a lot clearer in the project management platform. So that's how we're actually going to be tracking who's contributing to what, because it's separated through projects. So when you come onto there, Hypha DAO itself is a project, i.e. building the DAO. Seeds then becomes a project, i.e. building seeds. And then every other project that we have come in there become projects. And then you can see who's working on what project in what context. But again, what we're doing here is that one person, and we're trying to synergize here, that one person playing one role could be supporting 15, 30, 100 different projects all at once.
Yes.
And this is good for that person. It's good for the projects that are joining it. So then projects can get stuff built for them at a reduced rate. People showing up to build stuff for projects can be building it and being compensated in 150 different ways opposed to just one. So they would be earning more for their value as well. So in this way, everyone wins out of this relationship.
Yeah. Do you think it would be worthwhile for us to, when we're doing the proposals, add in, even like as a headline or subhead or something like seeds or Hypha? This is a seeds role that I'm proposing.
Yeah, for clarity and simplicity, I would say all the roles are just Hypha roles. So if you're a developer who's going to be doing stuff for seeds, that's fine, but you're a Hypha developer who's going to be working on the seeds project. So everything we're doing as far as roles for Hypha is a role for Hypha, just Hypha. And seeds is a project that Hypha is doing. Does that make sense? So every role is in the context of how it's serving Hypha.
Yeah. Okay.
And that, yeah. Awesome. As far as just a last bit of clarity then, as far as the salary goes then, it's the same salary for the Hypha point, but where it would differ is if you're not contributing to seeds, then don't ask for that same as a seed salary. So that multiplier for seeds was if you were joining Hypha supporting seeds and that role does both, then you're earning seeds and Hypha. If you're joining Hypha on its own, but as an open, you're not contributing to a particular project, you're getting Hypha on its own, and then you'll get individual tokens based on what projects you're contributing to. So right now there's only Hypha seeds and that Hypha voice, but very soon as more projects are joining, they'll be creating their own tokens. So we'll start seeing a lot more tokens operating within the Hypha DAO other than just seeds Hypha. So we're gonna have to have some type of structure here. Maybe I'll go by hand raises because it actually organizes everyone. So I know Douglas has his hand up, and then I'll get to Yen, and then Ed, and then the other Ed. So Douglas, shoot first.
Thank you. So just briefly, as we talk about the creation of tools and things like that, which are very important, I want to encourage everybody to look at what exists. I'm happy to be a resource for what may already exist so that we don't use our limited resources to create new things where there might be a really suitable tool already that would just get us further down the road. And then by the same token, as you develop things, perhaps I can help coordinate where other things are in development. That's going to be actually the hardest part, is where things already are in development that I'm a pretty good resource for. For example, anybody who would be coming in with would be launching a stable coin or launching a mobile wallet or launching some kind of other token. I very likely can put you in touch with people who are working on a very similar project where either they could help you or you could help them, and we can amplify our efforts. So please reach out to me as a resource if you have any type of development, and I'm happy to talk to you and put you in touch with things that might get you further down the road. I put my email in the chat in case anyone wants to reach out directly.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Doug. Great. Ed.
Yeah, it's actually feeding off what Doug was talking about there. I've noticed, the call was, I think maybe had 18 people at one point, and a few people are leaving, contact details or the projects. And it seems to me that a role that would be really valuable would be maybe what in the analog world was a scribe. But each call has it's more of a cartographer, I guess, could map the difference. We could have one person who maps the projects that are talked about. If Doug wants to say, I'm available for this, or Vish is saying, my Telegram's here, it'd be really awesome if, you know, people don't necessarily have to watch the whole call, but they can look at like one sheet or a sort of mind map and see, are these the projects that were discussed? And I feel like that would facilitate us, and then fractaling off into little groups to, whether it's doing storytelling or, you know, festivals, it would just really enable, because I feel these calls are going to be, you know, going and going and going, and other people will be following a similar template. So if we could have a template for people to fill in, you know, a role, I guess it's a role really, but maybe some software that goes with that as well. If other people feel that would be valuable, maybe spend a little bit of time thinking about that.
Definitely, I would see huge value there. So be honored if you build that.
I think like it sounds a little bit like network coordination between sort of different people within the network, like getting them connected up. And then I also really like the scribe role. If we do, if down the road we start doing gratitudes during the call, like having those really like accounted for, and then having value flow through to people that receive the gratitude. So something that we can talk about too, but I think the scribe would be super helpful to, allow that information to flow out to everyone, allow people to get connected.
Yeah, it might just be one person who collates, you know, after each one person's done their introduction, they can put a couple of links into the chat, and then someone can put them all into a mind map or a, you know, a Google Doc or whatever it is. But for that, be a valuable role, even if it's a small one.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Are you offering to fill that role, Ed?
I wasn't necessarily offering. I was thinking about that when I was describing it, whether I was offering or if I just felt it needed to be filled. But I reckon I could do something on that, actually. Yeah, I could try the next time. It's just whether I'd be available for all the calls. I don't know. But I can definitely, I'm happy to give it a test out if I can go back through this video and do a little mind map and connect the different projects that have come up.
Yeah, that'd be incredible.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yin, I know you had your hand up.
Yeah, sorry. So I had a couple of questions. The first one was just about communication and organization, whether it's around the Hypha DAO or these other projects, which also sort of fork off. Which platform would people prefer to use? Would it be something like Slack or Telegram? And, you know, like Ed said, maybe it's good to have some sort of directory so you can find a project and then you can get involved, or you can find the team of a project and then get involved. And then my second question would just be about the sort of the ambassador role. And like you said, it was, I guess, for all the roles are for Hypha. But I guess the ambassador role in particular would be for Seeds, but just via Hypha, I presume.
So the ambassador role is for Seeds and Hypha. So that's one of those ones that fill both. Because I mean, at this particular stage in the game, it's kind of hard to promote one without promoting the other anyway. Yeah. So those ones are just inextricably linked. I could show you how this would look, though. This might be the easiest way. So I'll just share this with you real quick and give you a rundown of this project management, how it's set up. So here's the Hypha, so project.hypha.earth. This is our project management URL. So it's all under the Hypha umbrella. And then as you see here, we have Seeds as a project, Hypha DAO as a project, and even Hypha itself as a project. So Hypha DAO being the UI in the front end and the blockchain part, Hypha as an organization itself as a project that's in development, and then Seeds as a project. And then within each one of these projects, you actually see all the people who comprise it. So Hypha is going to be much larger of an organization than even all the people contributing to Seeds. There could be an entire project within Hypha that's not even related to the other projects. Again, this isn't our intention. It's supposed to be like the mycelial network where everything is interconnected and sharing resources and collaborating in that way. But we are separating it based on all the projects that Hypha is building. Does that make sense? So then the relationships with organizations joining is they could still maintain their legal entity and their organization, everything as it is. But then they could just come in here and their organization then becomes a project that all the members of Hypha can now start contributing to. And then that organization can create a token in the Hypha DAO and start distributing value to the people who are contributing to their project and their organization in that way. So that's just a way for organizations to easily plug in here without having to radically change how they're operating. Or to not to make very big changes at all. So then as you get in here, you see you can have external users, so people who aren't even part of Hypha. So then this way an organization can join, make their organization a project, invite all of their team as external users, and then maybe it's just them who's actually a member of Hypha. So then they're that bridge here. And then even their team can then contribute to the project all through here, and they're welcome to use this platform to manage their project development. So you can go into the project and you can see all the different people. Oh, sorry. So you can go into the project, seeds, and then you have all these different views where you can see everything that's being done. Yeah. Cool.
And is this publicly accessible for us to join?
Yes, so how this process works right now is a lot of you already have invites, but first design a role for yourself for Hypha, put it up on the DAO. If it gets approved, then you send your email and your contact information to me and I add you to these tools. There is a document that walks through this entire process, so we probably don't need to get into that on this call. So I added that document to the Telegram chat and I can send it to any of you if you want it. It's just, yeah, joining Hypha, the benefits and the process of doing so.
Yeah. Can I just, on something on the projects there, Rocky, the link you had in Telegram, that took me to a blank version of projects. So I got my login, got my email, it got me through into screen. There's no projects, there's nothing, completely empty. And I'm just looking at yours, your URL ended in views/1, mine ended in /manage. And if I actually typed in your URL, I had access to what you were seeing. But when I just log in and I just go to projects and it finds me in, I end up with an empty shell.
Yeah, same.
Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna have to troubleshoot that and see what's going on there.
It's just something with the URLs not quite lining up.
Yeah, so I'll probably have to pull a better link. Okay. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. And I did have one question to ask and
sure.
it's just as I see people starting to form teams and start to work on things. To me, it's something that came up with chatting with Simon the other day was from being what I need is really clear purpose. What is the purpose, the defined, stated, agreed purpose of Hypha, seeds, and then for each of the projects we do, without a leader, without a hierarchy, we need a really clear purpose that we're all pulling towards them. And I haven't yet seen what that is for seeds or what that is for Hypha. So I'd love to know where that is, and before everyone rushes off and gets together and starts talking about what they're going to do, how do we get clarity around that right from the top, and then start working down through those levels, so that we're all working in the same direction. Yeah.
Yes. I'm really grateful that you brought that up. So the document that I shared, that's the joining Hypha and the benefits of Hypha, at the beginning of that, there's actually a section for values, and that's left blank right now. And I think that's a really great place to start for Hypha. So everyone here who's part of this call, part of informing Hypha right now, we can show up and have an open conversation about what our values are and how we would like to design Hypha to best serve us. And then from that, we can pull out a mission statement for us. And I intentionally actually left it blank for Hypha because that's a process that's meant to be done collaboratively. So I'm definitely going to go in there and share some of my input about how I'd like to inform that, but that's just advice. It's just suggestions. This is something that we're all meant to be coming together to inform for Hypha itself. Seeds, there's plenty of documentation there. I think it supports the purpose, but I can definitely distill it into something that's simple and that will appear within the project's platform in the DAO. So I can send that out and make that very clear with what seeds is, but again, that's in the white papers and stuff, what the clear intent behind that project is. So either way, first step would be showing up to that document, putting in what you believe your values are, participating in that conversation to figure out the purpose there. And yeah, really appreciate you bringing that up. It's like
Yeah,
anything.
I see almost every project needing to have a very clear purpose statement, and for me, it's as we're all to say, it's in the white paper. It's in amongst 20,000 words. It's a case of it needs to be something that's really clear that everyone knows. Yeah, in a way, everyone who's on this call should know what the purpose is of Seeds. If we're that intrigued yet, I couldn't tell you what it is. I'm sure I probably read it and I might have seen it, but it's accessibility to that information and clarity around that is I think really, really important. So
and just for those on this and listening, the purpose of Seeds is a financial system for regenerative society, financial and governance system. So I mean, that's its purpose, is to serve as a financial layer to support a regenerative society, thriving society. And then of course, how it goes about doing that is requiring a lot more documentation, but that's still its stated intent. Reggie.
Yeah, I think the clarity around purpose of the different organizations and overall is really important. And then linked to that, I think it's really important upfront to have like shared understanding and consistency around the value exchange. Like, what are the things that we collectively recognize as valuable, and really important to get that clear upfront. So somebody doesn't have like one sense of what's valuable and what's going to be sort of linked to the kind of like the equivalent of equity, and somebody else has a different impression. I think it's really important to kind of hit that off early on. So I think, and that also gives us the ability to connect what we feel is valuable to our value system, like what our culture is and those types of things. So I think there's a really cool opportunity for us to do that in a decentralized, sort of self-organized, emergent way. I think it would be really important to do that soon, and for everyone to know that really well, so that there's not confusion as you go, or there's not any confusion that comes up.
Yes, definitely. And with that, I think that would be one of our very next calls that we'll be having. So Reggie, you and I can schedule a call. Anyone else is welcome to join this, but it'll be around creating that framework for value exchange for the individuals and organizations shown up to Hypha, what that looks like. And I also added a section in the document for that to manifest once that's taken place. Yeah, perfect. See, and this is exactly how the DAO operates. I come up with some of the stuff, but then you're all with your collective sense making, bringing how all of this actually needs to work together in order to inform itself. So this is the process. Does anyone else have a question, comment, thought they want to leave with? Actually, what we can do at this point, Yen, I'll leave it with you first, and then we'll transition to the last stage.
Oh, well, did you say I can speak now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I missed what Reggie said. I was playing with my iPad because my power was going down. So I think it was something about value. Can you just maybe repeat what?
Yeah, that I think it's really important for us collectively and individually to understand what's going to be recognized as value in terms of kind of ownership and upside in what's happening, so that there's real clarity. So there's not confusion. One person thinks that one thing is the most valuable and somebody else thinks something else is valuable. There'll always be a little bit of mismatch, but getting as much clarity as we can, because that'll really align interests and also really feel really fair. Everybody knows like how we do those kind of things is consistent, and then that we can link that to our value system, like how do we value kindness and honesty and all these other things instead of just traditional things that companies usually value or organizations usually value. So I think there's a cool opportunity to do that, and I think it would be good to do it early.
Right. Okay. Good. Yeah. So I had some other questions as well concerning how do we implement Seeds in Hypha in the Tipping Point Festival? In 2020, we're planning to have a pre-event. We call it a pre-event. So it's going to be global and decentralized as well, and get as many cities on board as well. So that's an opportunity to we're actually going to be doing community simulations, like how all the different communities that join at that time, we'll lead them through workshops of how they would actually design an autonomous, resilient community that is living within planetary boundaries. And so we'll walk them through that, and then they'll have this workshop to actually design that, and then backcast it to see what's required today to do that. So part of that exercise would be to actually have this alternative economic system. So is that something that we could plan for, to actually have seeds run through a seed simulation, economic simulation at that event? So that's one question. The other is we plan to, one of the things, I've worked in the Commons for a few years, and one of the things I think is that constrains the capacity of the Commons is the kind of the professional level of research and development is always going to venture capitalists in the private sector. And so I think that seeds can play a role to help migrate that innovation into the Commons. So like what we want to do with the Cosmo local platform is to bring all these innovators together. But one way to incentivize them is to say that we want to create these innovation peer production community cooperatives all over the planet. And these would be production centers where innovators who join the innovation platform would actually be incentivized, because they would actually get a chance to produce locally for themselves. So let's say Reggie wants to produce regenerative agriculture where he lives, then he'd say, I want to be part of this, establishing a community, a production cooperative here where I am. So that's part of my incentive. I'll contribute my innovation talents and work with all of you guys. And then my reward will be that we'll generate 1,000 innovations, design innovations, and we have access to all of them, and we can produce all those 1,000 innovations here locally, right? So that's one incentive. But another is like, how will we get university research and development departments to bring that really high level of capacity into the Commons? Because that's one of the things that's missing in the Commons. We have a lot of makers and so on, but they're kind of almost like tinkering on the edge, they're not making those big breakthroughs. We need to have a migration pathway to bring those big breakthroughs into the Commons. Another way we can do that is we right now having discussions with the International Cooperative Alliance, which is the leading cooperative organization in the world. And basically we're trying to develop a model of how we would create these innovation production cooperatives all over the planet. And our kind of value proposition from them is that they would help us to design this template that would onboard communities to become formal production cooperatives. And what that does is if the Tipping Festival is able to get like 50,000 or 100,000 communities to become formal community production cooperatives, that gives us enormous leverage, to go approach these research departments and say, look, we have 100,000 production centers here, clean production centers, and we'd like you to have your technology. Can you bring it on board, right? So I'd like to put that question out to the group to see how, because we're in the middle of writing this document for them, and they're waiting for us. So how do we see seeds and Hypha fitting into this so that we can give them an attractive proposition for them to join us? And then how would the actual communities that we bring into this Cosmo local architecture, business architecture of the future, if they start building their local economies and start creating regenerative food systems, built environment systems for the homes and everything, they're producing all this stuff, how would seeds be used to actually facilitate exchange more efficiently in the local economy, even as the fiat currency is generating, being exchanged as normal? How would seeds actually within the local community actually help keep the economy running locally? So those are kind of my questions.
A lot of good questions. I also want to leave it open to if anyone wants to respond to any of those points. I know one of them, there's a lot of questions, but one is preparing DAOs for local communities to be able to use. So Hypha is open source. Douglas and what's going on with Telos could support in that effort for, we want to make like a DAO factory, where essentially it's really easy to be able to spin up these different DAOs and use them, and to make it sensible to plug them into the Seeds and Hypha ecosystem itself. We're not trying to coerce anything. We're making it open source and giving it out there, but just trying to incentivize collaboration. Because if you do use Seeds, you can get rewarded for participating in that ecosystem, opposed to just creating your own exchange token. So that there's benefits there for plugging in rather than forking out. Forking being splitting, yeah. Second, I'd like to have a call that's more festival related. I know there's some other people who aren't part of this call that are meant to be on that call. So I can just put a proposal out there to say how this plugs right into Tipping Point Festival. We can have a separate conversation about that. And then right now I want to stop talking and let anyone else respond to you who would like to. Reggie.
Just one idea to throw out there. I think like with the commons, like, this is more conceptual, but if this resonates, maybe we can do something with it, or maybe it'll go somewhere. But when people put stuff in the commons and then it's just completely, it can be completely free to use. And that makes sense. And I think that's way better than what we have. And I also think that if it's possible for each individual person, let's say they have a certain amount of gratitude, say each month or each week or something, that they can give gratitude to people who are putting things in the commons, then that gratitude, if it's connected to value, the gratitude can flow to the people who are giving lots of value into the commons. And that can be a way to, a decentralized way to recognize people who are giving their gifts into the commons. So I think that's sort of like one way to like look at the commons that might be helpful. Because what you really want to create, I think you want to create a system where you'd rather play this new game than the old game. And I think unfortunately, one of the advantages of the old game, or the one that we're mostly in, is this sort of monetary thing. Like you can extract a lot of value, but I think we can flip that and make it feel really good to give if we have the gratitude. Because on each side of giving gratitude, it can actually feel really good when you give the gratitude and when you receive it. So just want to throw that idea out there in terms of related to the comments.
I have one thing to add after that, but Douglas put his hand up, so I want to give the podium to him.
Oh, thank you. I'll be brief. I know that most of us are, probably all of us are looking at the long-term incentive alignment of Seeds tokens and whatnot, but some of these projects are going to need, real, or something closer to present day money to underwrite some of their activities. And so I want people to be aware that with this in mind, we built a worker proposal system on Telos, and anyone is able to go in and ask for funds from the Telos community, which are already allocated and just need to be voted on. And so where you have projects that have long-term value for Seeds, Hypha, Telos, the entire community, but also have some immediate costs, I would encourage you to look into that system as a way to meet those immediate costs, because sometimes that can be the difference between a project getting built or built in a month or two versus a year or two. And so I want to make sure that if anybody has questions about that, I'm here to support you in those things. It's just a source, funding sources, real, something close to hard currency for funding sources are rare, and I want you to know that we have one if you have projects that are in need of that.
Yes, so the worker proposal system, just for anyone who's not familiar, is just essentially a DAO where you can apply with a proposal for certain funds to do something with that could benefit the community. And then all the token holders on Telos actually vote on those worker proposals. So you just frame it in a way that's very beneficial to the Telos community, and then if they approve it, it gets passed. And also, again, to respond to the local community component, that's what's a big part of our DAC, Decentralized Autonomous Communities, is sending value to these local communities for them to be able to distribute locally. So it's one way where it is supporting local development. And each one of these DACs could actually be backed up by a legal entity. So Vermont passed a law doing this, so did Wyoming and a handful of different countries, and it seems to be a trend. So you can have a legal entity that's holding and owning these assets that we're collectively buying. So it's a really beautiful embodiment of the commons. So we're directing resources for the community to decide how to spend it, and then they're collectively buying assets with that. Giving each other loans that's helping support the local system. So it's a complete reversal of our current financial systems that concentrate wealth into these centers. Now we're reversing that and actually deliberately sending money back out to the local community, right into the hands of the people who need it, and putting it into projects that they deem the most important. So I think that's a really critical part of this shift into the commons, is putting the value back into the commons and having a source to do so. Ooh, good stuff. So what we can do now, just because this call's been going really long, I really appreciate the endurance, and there's a lot of good stuff that's been covered. But we can just go in one circle, let everyone have the podium for a moment, say comments, questions, concerns, thoughts, whatever they have, and we can close after that. So I'll just start with my screen. So Nick, if you want to take the floor.
Super, awesome. Thank you very much for putting this together, Reiki. I really valued getting a perspective from all the different people, seeing the incredible people who come on board with this. And it's not long until 3 AM, so I'll be heading off to sleep soon. But really appreciated everyone's input. And I'll just put a message there for all of those interested in the branding, design, storytelling side. Let's jump into that Hypha branding Telegram channel. Let's work out those roles so that, you know, we're lining up, and between us we're filling the key roles, and we're not stepping on each other's toes, but we're supporting each other, because I'm really excited to be working with all of you. Thank you.
Beautiful, thank you. Ed Thurlow.
Hey guys, yeah, thank you very much. That was a real delight to take part in. I feel called to do that little circle, so I'm going to do a sort of mind map with the different links that everyone shared on this call, and might not be a full-time role, but I'll definitely do it for this call. And likewise on Telegram, if anyone has anything to send that they want to add to that, I'll share my Telegram, which is just Bit of Potential. Particularly interested, James, on the on when you talked about the urban planetary boundaries and how to contextualize those, because I'm also really interested in using the seed pods or the seed banks that we're talking about to map the trees and almost gamify the mapping of our trees. Because I feel we're about to incentivize trade, organic trade in a way. And to balance that, we've got to kind of pour the gratitude out to what's already there, you know, the ancient trees, the stories around them. So I'd love to have a chat with you about those urban planetary boundaries. And yeah, everyone else, that was almost too much. I've got to watch the call again and like feel into who I feel would be good to reach out to at different points. So yeah, awesome. What an afternoon. So thank you very much.
And thank you. Simon.
Hey, just so awesome to hear everyone's stories. So exciting to, hear some of these wonderful suggestions that you guys are making. Super exciting to see where this goes. Yeah, thanks. And nice work, Reiki.
My honor. And again, thank you all for showing up and supporting this. It's beautiful. Reggie.
Yeah, it was great to connect with you all, and yeah, it feels like got a lot of the right ingredients and pieces and people, and yeah, excited to see where this goes, and looking forward to connecting with you all. Thanks. Thanks, Reiki.
You're welcome. I just felt inspired to mention that the role I'm playing right now is facilitator. So I'm facilitating this call, but I really want to highlight that I'm not trying to lead this. I know that's an intermission role that's necessary at this formation stage, but I'm being very clear that this isn't a long-term role. I can still facilitate calls, but I'm also looking for other people to step up and facilitate these calls so that there's not a locus of power centered around me. Even though, again, people have been informing me that I'm needing to fill this role right now, I'm okay with that. But I'm so committed to decentralization that I've got to remove myself ASAP. So I see a lot of gratitude coming my way to setting this up. I appreciate that. But this is not about me. This is about the DAO and what we're doing together. So thank you for the gratitude. I appreciate it, but I do want to put that there. Yin.
Okay, well, I still have to express my gratitude, Reiki. So you'll have to take it, I'm afraid, for holding this space. And I understand completely where you're coming from, because in the Commons it's all about decentralization. So, but you know, there's always somebody who comes up with the idea, and then they have to pull it through until it becomes decentralized. So you have to kind of nurture it until it gets to that stage. So yeah. I think that we're all, you know, I always think that when I look into all the sea of humanity, we're all looking at each other. We're like reflections of each other, because it's like we're all human at the core, and we're all, you know, we've grown up in different places and we have different histories and so on. But all those different conditions are kind of like permutations of this genetic code that we all have. You know, so we're all. We all fundamentally are human, and we're all kind of resonating at this kind of same frequency right now. So it's good to bring all those different, all those differences that can complement each other. You know, in the world out there, there's a lot of differences which are antagonistic towards each other. But here in this space, we're trying to find a very strong resonance. So that's what I feel from this space. And the spaces that we're trying to create as well. So I think it's all about, you know, we form organizations, you know, from around the world, and that's all karmic, because, you know, like Reiki was in his place there, and he had his friend, his networks, and Reggie, and you know, Ed and Simon and everybody else. And now it's all about kind of dissolving those boundaries. It's like we all part of multiple groups, aren't we? Right? And it's about trying to bring all these groups together to harmonize. Because to actually make this transition possible, we're going to have to do that. You know, we're fighting against such huge, the momentum and the inertia is so large that we're fighting against. So we need to dissolve those boundaries, find ways to harmonize. So whenever we see conflict, I think that we have to embrace that and say, okay, that's just part of the journey. So how do we navigate that? How do we harmonize with that? You know, like in the Chinese metaphors, they talk about when water encounters the rock, it just flows around it. Right? So we have to find that way to flow around all the different kind of hard obstructions that will present themselves. Yeah. So.
Yes, so much gratitude. Thank you. Ed, you see that you're up. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, again, guys, just like really grateful to be here. Don't want to blow your trumpet too much, Reiki, but yeah, great job just getting us all in the same room. And yeah, I was, you know, speaking to Ed yesterday about it, and I've literally just moved to London, you know, the big smoke. And, you know, he just said, you know, what do you want to do with this project that makes you happy? And it's just such a blessing to be in this position where we're kind of out of survival mode, and we can actually benefit personally as well as, you know, communally from just doing what we love doing, but doing it together. And, you know, having a clear communication on, you know, someone mentioned it earlier, you know, where we're actually going. Because sometimes with these things, everyone kind of forks off in their own direction. But yeah, I'm just super excited to be a part of this team. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. B.
I have to say stuff?
You don't have to. You can just say goodnight.
Good night, guys. I love you all. Like, literally, it's been really incredible. And I look forward to having like deep dives with some of you, like one-on-one. I'm okay with like large group conversations, but really the most efficient way to have a conversation with me is really on a one-on-one. So if anybody wants to do that, let's do it. And yeah, let's take seeds forward as well as everything else we believe in. They're all tied together.
Beautiful. Happy to have you here, brother. Stefano.
Yeah, all right. Going to echo everyone else. Thank you. Gratitude, deep love. And as a third factor, something I've been thinking a lot about recently is the role of truth. I was listening to a podcast on the Emerge channel with Vinay Gupta, and he made a very interesting point, which I haven't heard expressed so simply before, which is that in the chakra system, and this is not whether about you believe in the chakra system or not, it's just that it's been conceived in such a way that the throat chakra, which represents truth, is above the heart, which more speaks to how an entire civilization and its culture believe that love is incredibly important, but so is truth. And love is given voice through truth. And I think how that arises for me is I see a lot of self-deception in the world. I see a lot of deception, but I see a lot of deception leading to even more self-deception. And I think part of what we're here to do as a community is to hold each other accountable. And it can be playful, and it's always going to be, hopefully it's going to be constructive criticism, but we're here to hold each other accountable too, and to make sure that the best ideas rise to the top and that we are working towards a shared truth. And that feels really important to me to mention. And then lastly, community. Yeah, I know that term just feels like it just comes up all the time, and it potentially loses some of its meaning, but that is what it is, We are going to do this together, not alone. So I'm excited to be a part of it, and thank you all.
Thank you for sharing that. And totally agree. Mary.
Hello, sorry, I was on mute. I guess for me, is this just like closing thoughts? Is that what this is?
Yep. Thoughts, comments, questions?
For me, I'm super grateful that I've met all you guys. It feels like all the pieces of the puzzle that I've been waiting for have appeared, and I'm super grateful for that. Actually, funnily enough, when I first started my project, my team and I, we wanted to create a currency and call it Seeds, funnily enough. So there's a big synchronicity there. Not that we got anywhere with it, but yeah, we took a different direction. Yeah, questions. I guess most of my questions have been answered already, and I would just say I'm just really excited to work with all of you. Feel free to add me on other platforms and keep in touch, because I heard a lot of potential synergies intuitively anyway. I felt them, let's say. So yeah, I would love to keep up the conversation, and I'm excited to collaborate with everyone in some form or other. That's me.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Douglas, you're up.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm just very humbled to be part of such an interesting, committed, and passionate group that will find a way to give up 3 hours of their time in a chunk in a day. So rare, such a sign of commitment. Please reach out if I can be any help, and thank you for allowing me to be part of this very exciting project.
Thank you. And is it just me, or that's a beautiful voice as well? It's very nice to hear. Could be like a talk show host. Either way.
Some gratitude there.
Comment,
yep. Well, maybe you could read over the video, the animation that's been going.
Oh, yeah, there you go. On the comment with the call length, this is very rare for us to do a call. We usually keep ours around an hour. These community calls, which I said we'll be doing one more of, will be the long length ones. However, as a standing rule, I'd like to avoid these unless we're just connecting and being free flow. We can have these longer calls, but as far as a workflow and a process, I'd like to keep them down to an hour and very targeted on what we're showing up to do. So just letting you know, we're not setting a precedence for these long, arduous calls. But this was beautiful nonetheless. And thank you all so much for, again, showing up for this, but also showing up for this more beautiful world that we're all collectively bringing about. And so honored that this is actually coming together in a way that continues to blow my mind. So I'm so, yeah, deeply grateful. And I think that is a beautiful place to leave it, unless anyone has one last thing they want to throw out, throw up your hand. If not, you guys are great. Take this to the Telegram, connect with everyone there, and then we'll just keep this process flowing. Reach out to me. And I'm full active now. I took that time away, like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, to step away and ground, but now I'm in it. So you'll see me full time the next long while. So just connect out with me if you have any questions, thoughts, anything, and I will help you through all the processes. Beautiful. All right, guys. Until the next time. Oh, actually, signature phrase. Could you all do me a favor?
Yes, yes, Ricky, tell us.
And have a beautiful day, morning, night, every time of the day that we have showing up right now. And Simon, if you have one last thing to leave us with, or is that it?
No, I was just about to say exactly the same thing to you.
Okay.
I
All right. Take care, guys.